Hi, my name is Purple Tan, aka Tan, you guys. Um, I guess the lighting is really bad. Hold on. It's like it's too. That's a little better. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but if you can, I'm going to make this whole video over again. So I know that in recent events there are a lot of you who might be thinking about suicide. A lot of you who have depression and anxiety might feel you're alone and you're not. So, and I think I know I talked about the reasons why I left to Montana when I was 17, bullied out of school, not a great home life, and one of the main reasons was because of those two big things. My depression was starting up again. I definitely talked about the high school experience, but I never talked about everything as a whole. Those of you who have watched my past videos on this know that I was diagnosed with depression when I was 12. And the events leading up to that, I used to tell stories. And it got me in a lot of trouble. And I told everyone, and my mom came down on me pretty hard, and she had a right to. I mean, I was just a stupid little kid doing stupid little shit. But I came down pretty hard on myself too, and thankfully, because of my great verbal relationship I've always had with my mom, I was able to tell her, hey, I am feeling suicidal. I didn't even know what that meant. I just knew the word. And I didn't know why I was feeling that way. And, I remember for the next few days, she kept talking about a special place that I was gonna go. And obviously it was a mental institution. And I also want to say this to anybody who has loved ones who deal with depression and anxiety. Those places are supposed to be there to help people who need help. It's not supposed to be there as a threat. So, what I'm saying is, if you do have a loved one who has depression and anxiety and they've been to a place like that, don't say, if you keep feeling that way, you're gonna have to go back to the hospital. Because that just makes us feel 10 times worse. And it makes them afraid of those places, which, it wasn't a horrible experience, but it did traumatize me a little bit. They rip you away from everything you've known, I guess. There's no, it's all schedules and orders, and I get that too. But it made me feel like I was a prisoner. I didn't know what was going on. Nobody explained that I was going to be put in that place. I remember sitting in the waiting room, and I think it was The Sound of Music was some really old movie. was playing, and I was watching that as my mom was getting everything set up as a doctor, and I was there for 5 days, I think it was. And by the 5th day, I was just broken down crying in my room that I shared with 2 other girls, I think it was. Maybe it was just 1 other girl. And there were no brushes, there were combs. There was no... everybody had the same general hygiene products. Everything was just the same. It was just... I didn't like it at all. Nobody was different. Everybody was, like, the same. Flash forward to when I was 17. Obviously, you guys know I was going out of high school. It was really bad time for me, and there's only so much time that you can spend after school before you have to go home. And it wasn't like my mom was neglectful or abusive. I didn't feel like I was being heard at home, or like I was being taken seriously, because I did voice my opinions to my mom and how I was feeling, and she kept saying, just take your medication, and it wasn't that, I wasn't on antidepressants. It was, I was on a wide variety of medication for my physical health, my diabetes and everything, and this one, it just made me feel very socially awkward, and she wasn't listening to me when I was saying that it made me feel weird. That was one of the biggest things that we fought about. And that's what it was. Me and my mom were constantly fighting, and there was no communication, no nothing. I think at one point I actually threw a bowl of baked beans, I think it was probably bean leaves, at a wall. I was that frustrated and that upset and unhappy with being in that house. I would walk home and I would stand in front of the door for about a minute, just preparing myself to walk in. And my mom didn't even get home until I think it was 5:30 or 6 o'clock. So I would sleep until she got home, which meant that I had trouble going to sleep that night. But that's how physically exhausted I was when I got home from school, not just from being awake and being at school and everything, but it was emotionally and physically drained by the time I got to the house. Whether I had something like a school like Lego Club or DECA or Fashion Club. Yeah, I did pretty much anything artsy I could. I think I was subconsciously trying to express myself in any way that I could. Which ironically is actually how I started my painting thing. I would sit at the kitchen table and I would paint with, honestly, also, these kinds of paints that my mom had. And I would paint on construction paper, which will mysteriously vanish when I left. But, I wasn't being heard at home, I wasn't being heard at school. I talked to my teacher, my special ed teacher, who is there to help us and make sure that we're doing okay throughout the day. And she suggested that I just fucking move to Montana. And I said, no way in hell my mom would let me do that. And she said, just ask to visit for the summer and keep pushing back your ticket date. And honestly, I think that probably would have worked, but my mom would have been so mad that I didn't want to ruin the relationship more. So at that point, my depression had kicked in, and I was scared shitless that if I told my mom that I would end up at the hospital again. And I was 17, so they probably would have put me with the other patients, the older patients. Because when I went the first time, it was just a bunch of kids that did stupid shit. They were all there for depression and self-harm. And I didn't want that. So for me, the only reasonable thing was to get away from the environment that I was in and go spend some time with my family in Montana, which I did, and while it was one of the worst years of my life, it also is probably the most helpful thing I've ever done for myself. Because I got away from feeling like I wasn't good enough. I started thinking about myself and my health. And it actually took me until I got back from Montana to realize that all the fights that my brother and I had were her trying to help me, which my mom had probably exhausted at that point. Because, in flashback again to when I was 12, it traumatized me when I went out too. And I'm pretty sure that because of that, I started my emotional eating, which I continued up until a few years ago, when I started going to my Aunt Teresa's class. And I started going on Tumblr. I found social media. Actually, I found iFunny before I found Tumblr, which is weird, because usually I think it's the other way around. And I kept misspelling Tumblr. I remember that. I would see posts on iFunny from Tumblr, and I tried to find it, and I kept actually spelling the word Tumblr. Tumbler. Instead of Tumbr. I spelled that one just now. But, my point is, I think that it would have taken me less time to love myself if I had gotten help and I wasn't so scared. Because I was scared and I did feel alone. Because I didn't have any friends. I didn't know if anybody else was feeling the way that I did. And once I started going on social media, Tumblr and all that, I realized, hey, I'm not alone. And I just want to let anybody who is feeling the way that I did right now, you're not alone. Because I went through it. I'm still going through it. It's not something that's ever going to go away, but it does get easier. But it's only going to get easier if you want to get easier. You have to want to get better. I don't know why I am wiping the under eye. I'm not even wearing makeup. I never wear makeup. But I'm going to put some links in the description. The National Suicide Hotline Text Crisis Trevor Project, obviously. I love you all very much. and I hope this helps at least one person. I love you all. Bye.